She never thought this day would come. For years, she and her husband had dreamed of becoming parents, imagining tiny footsteps echoing through their home, soft laughter filling quiet rooms, and little hands clinging to theirs. But every attempt to have a child had ended in heartbreak. Test after test, visit after visit, doctors had delivered the same crushing news. It was unlikely she would ever be able to carry a baby. The words haunted her in the quiet moments, in the sleepless nights when she and her husband would hold each other and imagine a life they might never have. Yet, life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. One morning she woke up feeling unusual, strange fatigue, mild nausea, and a fluttering in her stomach she hadn't felt before. At first she dismissed it, telling herself it was just stress or maybe a passing illness. But deep inside she felt a spark of hope she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Something was different. She shared her feelings with her husband over breakfast, and though he smiled cautiously, he couldn't hide the flicker of excitement in his eyes. After much hesitation, she scheduled an appointment with her doctor. Walking into the clinic, memories of past disappointments weighed heavily on her. The sterile smell, the quiet murmur of nurses, the ticking clock, it all felt familiar, a reminder of what she had endured. Her husband held her hand tightly as they sat in the waiting room, the silence between them filled with unspoken fear and longing. When her name was finally called, she tried to steady her trembling hands and took a deep breath. The doctor welcomed her with a warm smile that did little to ease her nerves. He asked the usual questions about her health, diet, and daily routine, and she answered, her voice betraying a mixture of hope and anxiety. When the moment came for the ultrasound, her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. As the screen flickered to life, showing the black and white shapes and shadows inside her womb, she held her breath. Then the words came, and the world seemed to stop for a moment. "Congratulations," the doctor said, his voice soft but filled with surprise. "You are pregnant." She blinked, unable to speak at first, staring at the screen as if trying to convince herself that what she saw was real. Her husband's hand tightened around hers and tears welled up in both their eyes. After all these years of disappointment, of empty attempts and dashed hopes, this tiny heartbeat on the screen was proof that miracles do happen, but the joy was quickly tempered by caution. The doctor explained that her pregnancy was considered extremely high risk. Her medical history, combined with the years of difficulty conceiving, meant that every step forward had to be taken with care. Regular monitoring, special medications, and lifestyle adjustments would be crucial. He advised her to avoid stress, to rest whenever possible, and to listen closely to her body. While the words were sobering, she didn't feel fear as strongly as she felt awe. The miracle was real. She was carrying a life inside her, something she had almost stopped believing could happen. The ride home was quiet at first, both of them lost in thought. Then her husband broke the silence, his voice shaking slightly with emotion. "We've waited so long for this," he said. "I can't believe it's finally happening." She smiled through her tears, nodding. It felt surreal, as if she were floating above her own life, watching a dream unfold before her eyes. Over the next few days, their home transformed. The living room, once filled with empty chairs and the quiet hum of daily routines, began to fill with warmth and laughter. Friends and family came to share their congratulations, each visit adding to the sense of wonder and anticipation. Gifts arrived: tiny blankets, soft onesies, and books filled with stories for children. Each item felt precious, a tangible reminder that this was not just a dream but reality. Despite the excitement, she remained cautious. Every twinge, every unusual feeling sent her mind racing. Was this normal? Was the baby okay? She kept a small notebook, jotting down every movement, every heartbeat she felt during the scans, treating each detail as a treasure. Her husband became her steadfast companion in this journey, attending every appointment, holding her hand through long procedures, and offering comfort when fear crept in. His presence became a source of strength, a reminder that they were in this together. As weeks turned into months, the pregnancy revealed small miracles. Early on, the baby responded to her voice, twisting and turning as if recognizing her. During one ultrasound, the doctor marveled at the baby's resilience, noting how strong and active it was despite its tiny size. These moments filled her with awe, a deep sense of connection to the life growing inside her. She would often sit quietly in the evenings, placing her hand over her belly, whispering hopes and dreams into the soft darkness. imagining the child she had waited for so long to meet. Her daily life changed in subtle ways. She chose foods carefully, took gentle walks in the park, and rested whenever possible. Every sound, every movement, every flutter of life inside her became a source of joy. Friends who had shared her long struggle would call or visit, their voices tinged with happiness and disbelief. Many remarked on how miraculous her pregnancy seemed, and she couldn't help but agree. Each day was a reminder that life could surprise you, even when you had given up hope. Despite the joy, anxiety never fully disappeared. She remembered the difficult days of the past, the tears, the doctor's cold reassurances, the endless waiting. Now each scan, each heartbeat, each movement brought both relief and a quiet fear. She tried to embrace the uncertainty, to focus on the miracle rather than the risks. Meditation and journaling helped her stay grounded, and she often found herself speaking softly to the baby, promising love and protection no matter what. Her husband became a constant anchor in these turbulent emotional waters. He would often sit beside her, reading stories aloud to the unborn child or simply holding her hand while she rested. Their conversations shifted from fear to excitement, from what if to can you imagine? They talked about names, nursery colors, and the first moments they would meet their baby. Each plan, each imagined future, brought them closer together, filling the home with a sense of anticipation and hope. As the months passed, the community around them became part of the journey. Neighbors, friends, and even co-workers expressed amazement at the pregnancy, sharing their own stories of hope, struggle, and faith. She realized that while this was deeply personal, it was also a story that inspired others, a reminder that miracles can touch anyone, anywhere, at any time. By the time she reached the end of the first trimester, she began to notice subtle changes in herself, a new glow in her skin, a strength in her heart, and a sense of calm she hadn't felt in years. The baby's movements became more distinct, each one a small reassurance that life was thriving inside her. Even the doctor remarked on how healthy and active the baby appeared, calling it remarkable given the high-risk circumstances. She allowed herself to dream again, tiny steps across the living room floor, bedtime stories, laughter echoing in the quiet nights. She imagined holding her baby for the first time, feeling the warmth of a life she had longed for, a life that had seemed impossible just months ago. Each day became a celebration of what had once seemed unattainable. The story of this pregnancy was not just about the baby growing inside her. It was about resilience, hope, and the power of faith. Every doctor's visit, every scan, every quiet moment at home was a chapter in a story of perseverance and love. She had faced years of disappointment, yet here she was, carrying a miracle. Her life forever changed in ways she had never dared to imagine. As the first part of this incredible journey came to a close, she knew that the road ahead would bring its own challenges, but she also knew that the miracle inside her was strong, resilient, and filled with life. And in the quiet moments when she placed her hand over her growing belly, she whispered a simple truth. Sometimes, the most extraordinary things happen when you have almost given up hope. And sometimes those miracles change everything. The weeks after she discovered she was pregnant were filled with a mixture of joy and quiet apprehension. Every morning she would wake up, place her hand gently over her belly, and feel the tiny, fluttering movements inside her. It was a delicate reassurance that the life within her was growing, thriving, and responding to her presence. Yet beneath the happiness, a thread of worry ran through her days. The doctor had warned her from the beginning that this was a high-risk pregnancy. Every small ache, every unusual sensation made her pause and wonder if something was wrong. Despite the risks, she remained determined to embrace each moment. She began seeing her doctor more frequently, attending regular checkups and ultrasounds. The scans revealed a baby that seemed to defy the odds. Every time she looked at the screen, she felt a mix of awe and disbelief. The doctor, who had initially been cautious and reserved, began sharing moments of quiet amazement. "The baby's development is unusual but strong," he said during one visit. "It's rare to see such resilience at this stage." His words brought her relief, yet they also reminded her of how carefully she needed to move forward. At home, life took on a new rhythm. She adjusted her routines, prioritizing rest and nourishment. Her husband became her constant companion in this journey. He would prepare healthy meals, encourage her to take gentle walks, and sit beside her during long evenings when her body felt heavy and tired. Together they started imagining a future with their child, painting the nursery in soft, warm colors, folding tiny clothes, and reading books about babies and parenting. Each act, no matter how small, felt like a celebration of life. Even with the happiness surrounding her, there were moments of fear. One night she woke to a sharp pain in her abdomen. Her heart raced and panic set in. She called the hospital immediately, and the doctor advised her to come in for monitoring. The journey that had begun with hope was now filled with tension. At the hospital, she lay on the bed, her hands trembling as the nurses and doctor checked the baby's heartbeat. To her relief, the baby was fine, strong and steady. The incident reminded her of the fragility of life, but also of the incredible strength that existed within her. As the pregnancy progressed, she began noticing extraordinary things. The baby seemed unusually responsive, almost as if it recognized her presence. During one ultrasound, when she spoke softly to the baby, it moved energetically, twisting and turning in ways that surprised the doctor. He watched the screen in silence for a moment, then turned to her and said, "I've seen many pregnancies, but this baby is extraordinary. Its movements are remarkable." She smiled through tears, feeling a connection that went beyond the physical. It was as if the baby was already communicating, already showing signs of its unique personality. Her emotional journey was intertwined with her physical one. She experienced fatigue, morning sickness, and moments of discomfort, but she learned to embrace them as signs of life. She kept a journal, writing down every small detail. The first time she felt the baby kick, the fluttering movements, even the way the baby responded to music or her husband's voice. Each entry became a way to process her emotions and to celebrate the miracle unfolding inside her. Her husband's support was unwavering. He would sit beside her, gently rubbing her back during long nights when she struggled to sleep, or reading aloud to her when anxiety kept her awake. They spoke often about the future, about the life they hoped to share with their child. These conversations were filled with laughter, dreams, and sometimes tears. The experience deepened their bond, transforming their relationship in ways they had never anticipated. Every shared smile, every moment of comfort reinforced the idea that they were in this journey together. Friends and family continued to play an important role. They called, visited, and sent small gifts, each gesture carrying love and encouragement. Some shared their own experiences with pregnancy and parenthood, offering advice, reassurance, or simply a listening ear. She found strength in these connections, realizing that while the journey was deeply personal, it was also part of a larger tapestry of human experience. People's kindness and support reminded her that miracles were not only private, but could touch many lives. Amid all this, the pregnancy presented moments that were puzzling and unusual. During one routine ultrasound, the doctor noticed something unexpected. He paused, his brows furrowed, examining the screen carefully. "This is unusual," he said softly, almost to himself. She leaned closer, her heart pounding. The doctor explained that the baby's growth and certain features were rare, something he had only seen a few times in his career. While it was not dangerous at the moment, it required extra monitoring and caution. She listened intently, a mix of fear and fascination filling her mind. It was as if her child was already remarkable, even before entering the world. These unusual developments became a source of wonder. She would talk to the baby during quiet moments, sharing her thoughts, singing softly, and imagining the tiny life she carried. The connection was deep and immediate. She often placed her hand over her belly, feeling the baby respond, and whispered words of love and encouragement. Each movement, each kick, reinforced the reality of the miracle growing inside her. Her daily life also adapted in practical ways. She learned to listen to her body, resting when needed and avoiding stressful situations. She started eating more mindfully, focusing on nourishing foods that would support her and the baby's health. Gentle walks became a routine, both for her physical well-being and for the calming effect they had on her mind. These small routines were more than habits, they were rituals of care, love, and connection. Evenings were often the most reflective time. She and her husband would sit quietly, sometimes in the nursery, imagining the life that awaited them. They would talk about the moments they hoped to experience, the first smile, the first steps, the quiet nights of reading stories together. These reflections brought comfort, hope, and a sense of purpose. The baby, though still unseen in the world, had already changed their lives in profound ways, yet there were moments when fear returned. Every ache, every unusual sensation reminded her of the fragility of life. She learned to balance caution with trust. Trust in her body, trust in the medical team, and trust in the miracle she carried. She found that speaking her fears aloud, sharing them with her husband, and writing them in her journal helped ease the tension. It was a delicate balance between hope and worry, one she had to navigate daily. As she approached the midpoint of her pregnancy, she began to notice changes in the way others treated her. Friends and strangers alike were drawn to her journey. Inspired by the story of hope and resilience, people shared kind words, congratulations, and encouragement, making her feel that the miracle inside her was touching more than just her immediate family. She realized that stories of perseverance and life could inspire hope in ways she had never imagined. The doctor continued to monitor her closely, often marveling at the baby's resilience and growth. During one particularly detailed scan, he noted that the baby's development was strong, even surpassing expectations for that stage. "You're carrying something extraordinary," he said quietly, almost in awe. She felt a shiver of excitement and wonder. It was as if the universe had conspired to create something rare and beautiful, a life that was defying expectations from the very beginning. Her husband remained her steadfast partner. He encouraged her to share her feelings, to embrace both the excitement and the worry. Together, they prepared for the journey ahead, discussing the logistics of birth, planning for the nursery, and imagining the life that would soon begin. Each conversation, each shared plan, reinforced their connection and deepened their love. The journey of pregnancy was no longer just about her. It was about them, their child, and the life they would build together. By the end of the second part of her pregnancy, she had grown into a sense of quiet confidence. She knew the journey ahead would bring challenges, but she also understood the incredible strength within her. Every movement, every scan, every moment of connection with her baby reinforced the sense of wonder and gratitude that had grown in her heart. She felt prepared in a way for whatever lay ahead, trusting in the miracle that had already brought life into her world. The story of her pregnancy was no longer just about the physical changes. It was about love, hope, and resilience. It was about the unwavering support of her husband, the care of the medical team, and the quiet moments of connection that filled her days. Each experience, each discovery was part of a larger story of perseverance and faith, and as she felt the baby move inside her, responding to her voice, her touch, and her presence, she knew that the journey ahead would be extraordinary in ways she could not yet imagine. The day she went into labor arrived quietly, without the dramatic buildup she had imagined in her mind. The morning had begun like any other, sunlight streaming softly through the curtains, the smell of coffee brewing, and the hum of the house waking slowly. She had felt a strange rhythmic tightening in her stomach the night before, but it was intermittent and she brushed it off. That morning, however, the sensation returned stronger, and she realized this was not a false alarm. The time had come. Her husband immediately sprang into action. His eyes reflected a mix of excitement and concern as he helped her gather a few essentials: clothes, toiletries, and a small bag for the baby. He called ahead to the hospital, alerting them that she was on her way. The drive, though short, felt long and tense. Every bump on the road made her wince, and her hands gripped his tightly. The air in the car was thick with anticipation, the kind that only comes with moments of great importance. They didn't speak much. Words felt inadequate to capture the magnitude of what was about to happen. Upon arriving at the hospital, they were guided to a private delivery room. The staff greeted them warmly but efficiently, preparing everything for a high-risk birth. She was reassured that the medical team was experienced and ready for any situation, yet despite the careful planning, an undercurrent of worry lingered in the room. The pregnancy had been extraordinary from the start, full of unusual developments that defied expectation. Now, as labor began, everyone felt the tension of uncertainty. The contractions started steadily, rhythmic and intense. She breathed deeply, trying to focus on the life growing inside her rather than the pain. Her husband held her hand, offering words of encouragement and quiet comfort. "You're doing amazing," he whispered. "I'm right here with you." Every word, every touch grounded her, giving her strength to face the next wave of pain. Labor was relentless, but so was her determination. She knew that this was the moment she had waited for, the culmination of years of hope, loss, and perseverance. As the hours passed, The labor became more intense. The medical team monitored the baby closely, checking heart rate and vital signs. Occasionally, the doctor would pause and study the readings, his expression serious. The high-risk nature of the pregnancy meant that every fluctuation was significant, every heartbeat scrutinized. She could sense the concern in the room, yet she also felt a quiet confidence. She had carried this life against incredible odds. Now she would bring it into the world. Midway through the labor, an unexpected complication arose. The baby's position was unusual, one the doctors rarely saw. The room grew tense as they discussed options, their voices low but urgent. She listened carefully, trying to understand without panic. Her husband squeezed her hand, his presence a steady anchor. They trusted the team, but the unknown made the moments stretch long and heavy. Every decision carried weight, every second was crucial. Yet amidst the tension, there was also a sense of awe. They were about to witness something extraordinary. Despite the complication, the baby remained strong. Its heartbeat was steady, resilient. The doctor adjusted the approach, guiding her through each contraction with calm precision. She focused on breathing, on staying present, on feeling the life inside her. Each movement, each surge of pain, was a reminder that she was part of something greater, a miraculous process of life unfolding in real time. Her mind cycled through fear, hope, and excitement, but she clung to the belief that this baby was extraordinary, that the miracle she had carried for months was about to reveal itself fully. Her husband remained unwavering. He whispered encouragement, reminded her to breathe, and shared quiet jokes to ease the tension. His presence was both grounding and uplifting, a reminder that they were in this together. Every squeeze of his hand, every word of reassurance strengthened her resolve. She imagined holding the baby, feeling its warmth, hearing its first cries. That image became her anchor, helping her push through the waves of pain and uncertainty. Hours turned into a blur of contractions, coaching and monitoring. The medical team worked seamlessly, communicating quietly, responding to every change with experience and care. Occasionally, they would offer words of encouragement. "Almost there. You're doing wonderfully. We're right here with you." Their support, though professional, carried warmth that reminded her she was not alone. The room, though tense, was filled with dedication, skill, and quiet hope. As the labor progressed, she began to notice small signs that the baby was unusually responsive. Even through the contractions, she could feel movements, subtle shifts that were stronger and more distinct than she had experienced before. The doctor noticed as well, pausing mid-monitor to study the readings. "This is remarkable," he said quietly to a nurse. She glanced at the monitor, seeing patterns she didn't fully understand, but she knew instinctively that something extraordinary was happening. The baby was resilient, alive, and unique, and that thought gave her courage. Finally, the moment arrived when the baby began to descend. Her body, though exhausted, moved with determination. Every push, every breath brought the child closer to the world. The room grew quieter, anticipation thick in the air. The doctor guided her through each step, the nurses assisting with calm precision. She felt the intensity of the moment, a mixture of pain, effort, and profound hope. This was the moment she had dreamed of for years, the culmination of every struggle, every tear, every quiet night spent hoping for a miracle. Then came the first cry. A sound so small yet so powerful that it filled the room instantly. She and her husband were overwhelmed, tears streaming down their faces. The baby was here, alive and healthy. But there was something else, something unusual that caused the doctor to pause. He leaned closer, his eyes wide with disbelief, studying the newborn. For a moment he seemed stunned, unable to speak. The room held its breath, the quiet tension now replaced by awe and wonder. The nurses quickly stepped in to assist, but even they could sense that this was no ordinary birth. The baby, healthy and vigorous, carried a characteristic so rare and unexpected that it stunned everyone in the room. The doctor, who had guided countless deliveries in his career, was visibly shaken. He had never seen anything like this before, and the sight of the child was enough to momentarily overwhelm him. She and her husband looked at each other, their emotions a mix of disbelief, joy, and amazement. The months of worry, fear, and anticipation had led to this extraordinary moment. They held the baby, feeling the warmth, the tiny heartbeat against their hands, and the reality of what had occurred sank in. This was a miracle, a life that had defied odds and expectations, and now it was in their arms. As the initial shock in the room settled, the medical team resumed their work, checking the baby's vitals, cleaning, and wrapping the child in soft blankets. Every measurement, every examination confirmed that the baby was healthy and thriving, a testament to resilience and life's unexpected wonders. Yet the miraculous nature of the birth lingered, an invisible presence that filled the room with awe. Her husband gently brushed the baby's hair back and whispered words of love and wonder. "You're incredible," he said softly. "We've waited so long for you." She held the baby close, marveling at the tiny hands, the delicate features, and the life that had grown against all odds. Tears of joy streamed down her face as she whispered promises of love and protection. In that moment, the years of struggle, the months of cautious hope, and the uncertainty of the pregnancy all melted away, replaced by the overwhelming reality of a miracle she could hold. The day of labor, though filled with tension, pain, and uncertainty, had transformed into a day of awe and gratitude. Every contraction, every moment of fear had led to this extraordinary moment of life. The medical team, though still processing what they had witnessed, celebrated the resilience and strength of both mother and child. The birth was more than a medical event. It was a testament to hope, perseverance, and the extraordinary possibilities of life. As she rested in the hospital bed, holding her newborn, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Years of longing, loss, and hope had culminated in this miraculous birth. The challenges of the pregnancy, the unusual developments, and the tense labor were all part of a story that was now marked by wonder and gratitude. She realized that life's most extraordinary moments often come after the greatest struggles, and that miracles can appear when we least expect them. Even as exhaustion took over, a sense of calm and fulfillment settled in. She knew that the journey was far from over. The weeks and months ahead would bring their own challenges, discoveries, and joys, but she also knew that they had already experienced something extraordinary. The baby's arrival was not just a moment of life. It was a moment of wonder, a story that would be told and remembered, a reminder that miracles are possible. The room, once filled with tension and anticipation, now echoed with quiet awe. Nurses whispered to each other about the remarkable birth. The doctor shook his head in disbelief, and she and her husband held their child, overwhelmed by love and amazement. Every heartbeat, every tiny movement, every breath of the baby was a reminder of resilience, hope, and the extraordinary nature of life. As the first hours of life passed, she and her husband began to imagine the future. They thought of the first steps, the first words, the laughter that would fill their home. They marveled at the child's uniqueness, knowing that this was a life that had already defied expectations and would continue to inspire wonder. The miracle of the birth was just the beginning of a story that would unfold over a lifetime, filled with love, discovery, and extraordinary moments. The moment had arrived, the moment she and her husband had waited for all these months. The baby was finally in their arms, breathing, moving, and alive. But there was something that none of them had expected. As the doctor leaned closer to examine the newborn, his face went pale. His eyes widened, and for a brief second, the world seemed to hold its breath. Nurses exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what had caused their usually composed doctor to react this way. Then, almost in disbelief, the doctor swayed, and a nurse quickly caught him as he fainted. The room erupted into controlled chaos. Nurses rushed to support the doctor while others attended to the baby, checking vitals and ensuring the child was healthy. She held the baby close to her chest, her heart pounding with both concern for the doctor and awe at the sight of her child. Her husband remained at her side, holding her hand, whispering reassurances while also trying to understand what had caused the shock. The nurses helped the doctor regain his composure, and he sat back in the chair, still staring at the newborn in disbelief. He spoke slowly, almost hesitantly, as if trying to find the right words. "I have never seen anything like this in my entire career," he said. This baby is extraordinary." She looked down at her child, feeling a sense of wonder she could hardly describe. The tiny life in her arms was perfect in every way, yet it carried something remarkable, something that defied explanation. The baby's appearance was unlike anything the doctor had ever encountered. There was a uniqueness in the child's features, a rare combination of health, resilience, and an almost otherworldly presence that seemed to radiate from the tiny body. The nurses, though trained to handle surprises, were also in awe, speaking in hushed tones about how unusual and miraculous the birth had been. Every small movement of the baby, each tiny hand grasp, each stretch, each blink, felt like a confirmation that this was no ordinary child. She and her husband watched, their emotions a mix of disbelief, joy, and profound love. They had carried this life through months of uncertainty, high-risk complications, and emotional strain. Now, holding the child in their arms, they felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment and gratitude. Tears streamed down their faces as they whispered to the baby, promising love, protection, and a life filled with hope. The moment was both intimate and extraordinary, a personal miracle that also seemed to touch everyone present in the room. The doctor, still regaining his composure, asked the nurses to carefully recheck all readings. Every vital sign confirmed that the baby was healthy and thriving. He shook his head in disbelief, muttering to himself about the uniqueness of this birth. The nurses, who had seen countless deliveries, looked on in awe. "It's like nothing we've ever witnessed," one whispered. Another added, "This baby is going to be someone special." Even in their professional roles, the magnitude of the moment could not be denied. Her husband gently brushed the baby's hair from the forehead and leaned down to kiss the tiny cheek. "You're incredible," he whispered. "We've waited so long for you." She held the baby close, feeling warmth, life, and a connection that went beyond words. The months of struggle, the fear, and the anticipation were all washed away in that instant, replaced by pure awe and gratitude. They had experienced something rare and miraculous, and now it was real, tangible, and alive. The medical team continued to monitor the baby, documenting every detail. Yet there was a sense that this moment was larger than a medical observation. It was a miracle in the truest sense, a life that had defied odds, a child that had entered the world under extraordinary circumstances. The nurses adjusted blankets, checked heart rate and breathing, and whispered words of encouragement to both mother and child. Every small gesture carried care, respect, and wonder. She took a deep breath, feeling the baby's tiny fingers wrap instinctively around hers. The warmth, the softness, the life within her hands was unlike anything she had imagined. The baby's eyes, though barely open, seemed alert and observant, scanning the world for the first time. She marveled at the resilience and strength she could feel radiating from the tiny body. It was a reminder that life, no matter how fragile, could also be astonishingly powerful. Her husband looked at her, his eyes reflecting a mixture of awe and joy. "I can't believe this is real," he said softly. "After everything. This." She nodded, unable to speak at first, overwhelmed by emotion. The journey to this point had been long and filled with challenges, but holding their child now made every struggle worth it. She felt a sense of connection so profound it left her almost speechless. The bond between mother and child, strengthened by months of anticipation, hope, and unwavering love. The doctor finally regained his composure fully and approached her. He spoke gently, his tone both professional and awed. "This baby is healthy, strong, and extraordinary in ways I cannot fully explain. You've carried a miracle." She smiled, tears spilling down her cheeks. Words seemed inadequate to describe what she felt. Holding her child, seeing the doctor's astonishment, and feeling the overwhelming presence of life in her arms was an experience beyond language. The nurses began preparing the baby for routine checks, weighing, measuring, and cleaning. Even these simple tasks felt momentous. Every tiny feature, every heartbeat, every movement was a reminder of the miracle that had unfolded in the delivery room. She and her husband watched attentively, cherishing every detail. They whispered to the baby, speaking softly of love, hope, and the future that awaited. The room, though busy, felt filled with a sacred energy, a shared acknowledgement of something truly special. As the initial shock subsided, they began to imagine the life ahead. They spoke softly to each other about the milestones they would witness, the first smile, first steps, first words. Each imagined moment brought warmth and a sense of wonder. The baby, who had entered the world under extraordinary circumstances, was already shaping their lives, inspiring hope, and filling every corner of their hearts with joy. Family and friends were soon informed, and the news spread quickly. Messages of congratulations and awe poured in from near and far. Everyone who knew the couple celebrated not just the arrival of a child, but the remarkable nature of the birth itself. The story became one of hope, perseverance, and the extraordinary possibilities that life can hold. It was a reminder that miracles, though rare, do happen, and often when least expected. She rested in the hospital bed, holding the baby close, feeling the steady rise and fall of tiny breaths. Her husband sat beside her, occasionally leaning in to kiss her shoulder or whisper words of love. They marveled together, savoring the quiet moments of intimacy and awe. The room was alive with the presence of life, love, and an energy that transcended ordinary experience. The baby's small movements, the warmth of its skin, the soft sounds it made, all of it felt miraculous, profound, and deeply moving. The doctor returned briefly, still in quiet disbelief but smiling. "You've done an incredible job," he said. "This baby is healthy and its resilience is extraordinary. You should be proud." She smiled, exhausted but elated, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. The months of waiting, the high-risk pregnancy, the fears and anxieties, all of it had led to this moment. She had brought a life into the world that was not just healthy, but truly remarkable. As the hours passed, she and her husband continued to bond with the baby, discovering tiny quirks, gentle movements, and the unique personality emerging even in those first hours. Each interaction reinforced the miracle they were experiencing. Nurses checked in periodically, smiling at the obvious joy and awe that radiated from the couple. The baby's cries, small but strong, echoed the vitality and life force that had carried it through months of delicate growth inside the womb. By the end of the day, the initial shock had given way to a profound sense of gratitude. She and her husband had witnessed a birth that defied expectations, a child that had entered the world against incredible odds, healthy, resilient, and extraordinary. Every moment was a reminder of the strength of life, the power of hope, and the extraordinary possibilities that exist in the world. Holding their baby close, they felt a connection that would last a lifetime, a bond forged through anticipation, struggle, and the ultimate miracle of birth. Even as night fell, and the quiet of the hospital enveloped them, the memory of the doctor fainting, the astonishment of the nurses, and the miraculous presence of the baby remained vivid. They whispered words of love to the child, imagining the life ahead and reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. It was a day filled with awe, joy, and wonder, a day that marked the beginning of a story that would continue to inspire and amaze. Life after the miraculous birth was unlike anything she and her husband had ever imagined. From the moment they left the hospital, the world seemed brighter, filled with possibilities and hope. The baby, so small yet so strong, had brought a new energy into their lives, transforming everyday moments into memories they would treasure forever. Every touch, every glance, every coo was a reminder of the extraordinary journey that had brought them here. The first days at home were filled with a mixture of joy and careful attention. They had spent months preparing, but nothing could have fully prepared them for the reality of holding a tiny life completely dependent on them. She marveled at how delicate the baby was, how every tiny movement, every little sigh seemed to hold meaning. Her husband was equally captivated, spending hours watching the baby sleep, fascinated by the small fingers, the soft skin, and the steady rhythm of the heartbeat. Together they navigated the challenges of sleepless nights, feeding schedules and gentle care, each moment deepening their love for the child. Even as they adjusted to their new life, the extraordinary nature of the birth lingered in their minds. Friends and family continued to visit, bringing gifts and sharing in the wonder of the miracle. Some spoke in hushed tones about how rare and unusual the birth had been, expressing awe at what they had witnessed. She and her husband listened, often smiling but sometimes overwhelmed by the attention. For them, the focus was on the baby, on the everyday joys of watching the child grow and discovering the little personality emerging in each passing day. The doctor who had delivered the baby remained closely involved. He would visit occasionally, checking the baby's health and growth, but his visits were also filled with curiosity and admiration. He had never seen anything like this before, and each examination seemed to confirm that the child was extraordinary in both resilience and development. While he maintained professional composure, she and her husband could see the quiet awe in his eyes, and it reminded them that what they had experienced was not just rare, it was remarkable.